Hello everyone and welcome to the next Intermezzo episode where we are going to look at how our empire is doing. This one for the decade of 1876. Now, I'll be completely honest, we have been hit pretty hard in many regards by losing the Balkans. And I know that some of you have mentioned that it's not really a loss because we don't really need these territories as they were causing quite a lot of trouble for us. But still it hurts because they were core territories and we've lost population and we have lost production and well, it's just not good. On the other hand, some other things now look a little bit more positive, like the amount of Sunni population, the amount of Turkish population, and so on. So it's not all that bad. So we'll see. We'll see how it's going to go. Now, as usual, I'm going to start by going over the major statistics by posting some of the graphs on the screen. So you guys can follow the train of thought and what I'm going to be talking about here. Hopefully, you will see the trends continue because they certainly do continue in some areas, while in some other ones there are some major discrepancies. I haven't really initialized the game yet. I've done it before when I was preparing the charts. So for now, you will maybe see a little bit of a difference between the stats on the screen and the stats in the graphs, but don't worry about that. It's all taken from the game. So as far as population goes, you can see that the population has dropped significantly for both overall and working population. We were at 41.33 million just a decade ago with 10.33 million of working population, and now we're at 47.3 million and 9.32 million respectively. However, the population is increasing quite dramatically. We've done a lot of work on that. We have to close the borders again, and thus we can be happy in the thought that the population will continue to rise and hopefully even overtake the previous numbers soon. When it comes to the workforce split, you can see that currently the farmers have dropped a little to 71%, which is interesting because previously they were growing, which leads me to the idea that a lot of them were actually in the Balkans. A lot of those people that were farming were not our cultural core population. The amount of laborers has also dropped, however, to 15.5%, so by about 1% of the overall population. Artisans dropped by 0.2%, from 5.8 to 5.6. Intellectuals increased from 1.7 to 1.8. Landowners also, interestingly, increased from 1.2 to 1.3, which makes sense because I would expect most of them be Turkish. Actually, I think we can check that, can't we? When we deselect all and select just the landowners. Yep, the majority is Turkish, 70.57%. So if you lost a lot of these other people who were not landowners, it would lead definitely to an increase in the percentage. Soldiers, however, increased dramatically from 1.3 to 2.7% because we have been working on that really heavily, which is great. Bureaucrats also increased quite dramatically from 0.9 to 1.1%, and craftsmen increased from 0.3 to 0.7%. Unfortunately, capitalists still at 0%, but we are working on that, and soon we are hopefully going to have more. Right now we have 1,491, we need about, 5 times more to have that at 0.1? We'll see. Anyway, other stats that we will look at right now is religion. So you can see that Sunni Muslims increased from 49.6% to 54%, which is a way bigger jump than we had between 1856 to 1866. Again, this is just due to a lot of the population leaving us, who were mostly, I believe, Orthodox, because the Eastern Orthodox dropped from 31.2% to 23.4%, which is definitely not in line with the previous drops of about 2 to 3% in a decade. Oriental Orthodox, however, increased from 8.4 to 10.2. I guess there wasn't any major change, it's just that we lost so many people that now it seems there's more of them. Same with Alevi Muslims, who increased from 2.6 to 3.1. Catholics, though, dropped from 4.1 to 3.8. I believe, again, most of them were in the Balkans. And Shia Muslim increased from 2.3 to 3.5. So you can really see that losing the Balkans changed the structure of the population quite dramatically, more than I would expect previously. When it comes to the culture of the people, you can see that the Turkish population went up quite significantly. Previously, we had growth of about 26.6 to 20, so about 0.8, and now we have increased the population by 2.5%. This is due to both assimilation, but also due to losing a large majority of non-Turkish population. Greeks increased from 12.3 to 13.1, which is understandable. They are the dominant population, so again, they now seem to be a bigger majority because we lost a lot of other populations. Bulgarians from 10.8 to 6.3, Armenian from 8.1 to 9.8, which is in line with conquering some new territories though. Serbians from 5.8 to 1.5, so there are probably not going to be any more Serbian uprisings. Albanians from 4.7 to 5.1, which is interesting. We still have Albania. Mashriki from 7.2 to 10. This might be due to rapid increase in population, I guess. Not entirely sure. Kurdish from 3.5 to 4.3, and interestingly, Bosniaks from 1.6 to 0. So we right now have no Bosnian population. Actually, that's not exactly true. We do have a certain amount of other 4.9%, so they could be in that, but I haven't really seen any way how we could this and that. Actually, if we go with culture like this, do we see, let me scroll for a little bit, but do we see any Bosniaks? Bedouin, Berber, Bulgarian. Yeah, well, we have 3 pops here, so right now we have about, what would that be, 5,300? Interesting. So we really do not have any anymore. Considering there was 1.6% of them, this is really interesting. I mean, I guess that all of them really lived in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but it's interesting to see that we really had none of them somewhere else. That's a pretty big change in the population. Okay, and the last graph that we are gonna look at is ideology. So conservatives slightly increased from 47.6 to 48.4. Interesting, it goes up and down a little bit. Liberals dropped significantly from 33.7 to 27.6. I'm not sure how the ideology is influenced by population, but it dropped quite significantly by 6%, which is alright. Well, it was dropping before as well, from 36.9 to 33.7 and now to 27.6. I guess we are getting more conservative. We have a lot of reactionaries from 5.2 to 5.8, so there is a continuous increase from the original 4% that we started with. Radicals, however, increased as well, back to 8.1%, which is the number that we had in 1856, and socialist increased to 10%. So, yeah, there is definite change in the population ideologies. I guess maybe liberals are moving from liberal ideology to socialist, and maybe some to radicals. I wouldn't know, honestly, I wouldn't know. I'm not checking the pops at that much detail. Even though you have access to that, you can check it here based on the dominant issues, and I think the dominant issues are what is really affecting the ideologies, because you can see that the pops here are split between each of them, and you can see what they really want. So, does it really? Conservative 52, liberal 52.4, reactionary, well, it doesn't really fit though with the majority. Is that dominant issues? Issues, yeah. Well, I mean, the calculations behind that is the most complex thing in Victoria too, so I wouldn't really know. Anyway, production. There are, again, certain trends that are happening. I'm going to put it all on the screen right now so you can check it as I'm going to speak. So in military, we are increasing the production of canned goods again, which is nice. That's mostly coming from the factories. Other than that, there really isn't much to say. These numbers fluctuate heavily, and I kind of suspect that we lost a number of factories in the Balkans, which had a lot of production. What is important, though, is that the raw materials production is increasing dramatically. You can see it on the screen as well. Wool is now at 374 units. Silk increased to 17.5. Coal actually dropped, but I think that might be because we lost a lot of coal mines in the Balkans, because we had a lot of bonuses, and still we are very close to where we were before. We were at 195.5 and now we're at 176.1. Sulfur increased dramatically from 37.9 to 49.2. Metals increased as well. Wood dropped though, and again, I think this is connected to the Balkans, which kind of makes me nervous because we already had some issues with timber, and this might be another hit to us. Precious metals or precious goods increased from 9.1 to 9.9, which is good because a lot of our income is coming from precious goods, so we want to have as much production there as possible. Industrial goods, not much to say there. It's all over the place. The thing that I would like to maybe point out is that fertilizer increased from 19.3 to 66, and chemicals increased from 37.7 to 49.9. And glassware, we're becoming a glassware powerhouse. We had 141.4, now we have 171.4, which is connected, in my opinion, to the fact that we have a huge factory in Constantinople that just keeps on chugging. Yeah, it's at level 3 now and almost full. So there's definitely going to be more of that coming along later. Textiles also increased. It's kind of interesting. In 1846, we were producing 4.9 units, and now we're producing 214.5. So, yeah, there is a difference. Consumer goods, there is also a lot of increases. Not sure which ones I should point out, but generally over the board, I'm looking at if there's even any drops. I don't think so. We finally have coffee, so we're producing 8.7 units of that. Opium increased from nearly 6 to 9 units. So we started producing wine for 1.1 units now compared to 0 previously. Beverages dropped a little bit, but that's not an issue. Clothing increased to more than double from 24 to 50. Luxury clothing from 19.9 to 58, so there's definitely a lot of demand. Luxury furniture started its production. Pharmaceuticals also increased production from 0 to 25.9. Anything else? Livestock increased, fish increased, produce increased, grain increased, tobacco increased. So yeah, overall, just a flat-out increase in everything, which is good because our population dropped. So remember that we have less people working, but we still have much higher production. Well, now let's move to everybody's favorite, which is the accursed great powers. So another major changes happened. We currently have United Kingdom at first position. Let me just pull on the screen because you guys can then follow it together with the overview. So we have United Kingdom as the biggest nation with just insane score. In my table it says 5,793 because I had the game initialized for a bit before I wrote down the stats from the production. So in the table they have a little bit more score, but you can see it's pretty much aligned. We have the German Empire as a new contender here with the second position. Interestingly, their army is it? With the exception of Austria, Hungary, and Kingdom of Spain, their army is the weakest, significantly weaker than any other nation. Like, they have less than 1/4 of power of Russia. It's insane. And about half, slightly more than half of France. That doesn't really spell good future for them, because, they should be, as a great power, much, much stronger. But it's interesting to see them immediately on the second spot. So we'll see how it's going to go. United States of America has a lot of people in their sphere just doing their thing, being at position number 6. And if you're interested, we are currently at 14th position. Again, it says 15 here, but once you initialize it, it bumps us up a little bit. So we are firmly within the secondary power status, which is, good. Good. I'm happy with that. Now let's look at some of the map modes. You can see if there is something interesting. This is the infrastructure, diplomatic map mode. We're doing sort of good. We now have Iran and Khorasan within our spheres, which is good. Regions don't really make much sense. Administrators, we're doing pretty good in our proper territory. It's a little bit worse in the Libyan territories or North African territories that we have. Colonial map mode doesn't make any sense for us right now. Recruitment, most of it coming really from Ankara, and interestingly from here. National, what's it? National focus. All right. Naval map mode again doesn't make much sense. RGO output for now doesn't really make much sense. Population density, again, we have most of the people in Ankara, a little bit in Constantinople, but I was always under the impression that Constantinople would be bustling with life, but it really doesn't. More territories are more populous. I mean, we see that also here, that Constantinople is all the way down here. I mean, I could do the attract immigration, but I think that really works only with open borders. So for us now, it makes very little sense. Cultural map mode is something that you guys are interested in always. So let me just show you. This is a proper Turkish territory. We still have a little bit of Greek here, but it's very close. You can see that the Turkish population is at 39.2% already. Same here, overtaking 56.2, 52.8. In these territories, it's mostly Greek. So really, Anatolia and the European territories are, the ones that we really need to look into. Interestingly, we have a majority of Turkish territories in parts of Wallachia and parts of Bulgaria, which right now aren't even part of our territory, which is making me really mad. And you guys even pointed that out in the comments. Some of these territories were lost. Unfortunate, but not all hope is lost. Sphere of influence doesn't really make sense for a supply limit. We really don't have good supply limits in the east, which is probably going to be an issue in the future wars with Russia. But I have to say that they don't have really good supply limits either. So, it's not like we can complain too much. Party loyalty doesn't show much, does it? Interesting. Ranking, we are a secondary power. These are the primary powers, all of them in Europe. Migration map mode. You can see there's nothing really happening for us right now. Wait, is it migration? Oh yeah, because it's not initialized. Let me just run it for a little bit. It's gonna change itself. Alright, now you can see United States of America, Germany, France, United Kingdom, France. Oh, that's part of France. Interesting, Belgium has an immigration attraction, and we have nothing because we have closed borders. So, yay for us. India also sending people out. So it turns out British Dominion of Canada and the United States are still the victors. But really, Belgium? That's surprising. I mean, why not? It's not that, but civilization level relations, that's actually really important for us. Not many people like us, unfortunately, at this point. We'll have to work on that. Russia has a positive relation, Italy, the Low Countries, but Germany hates us, France hates us, Austria, Hungary hates us, and the newly created states also hate us. And crisis map mode doesn't really make much sense for us, with the exception of the flashpoint tensions that we have in the territory of Albania. So let's hope that's not going to cause us any trouble in the future. Well, we'll see. And last but not least, let's look at the ledger. based on total score. You guys can see how it goes from the top to bottom. We are over here. Yeah, we're 13, as I put it in the stat. Couple of nations above us, couple of nations below us. I'm gonna scroll a little bit so we can look at it in more detail. We have nations like Norway here. Political system, there's nothing I want to show here. Country population, provinces, province population doesn't really. Unless you have specific questions, this is really hard to show. But I was wondering, political system, if we can look at Belgium just for a little bit and see parliamentary monarchy, liberty. Okay. And political reforms. Belgium. Outlawed slavery, universal voting. Alright, proportional meetings, free press. Alright, well, they do have some really advanced reforms. Social reforms, low minimum wage, 14-hour workday, minimal safety, no subsidies, no trunkina. Yeah, they do. So they deserve the immigration. Alright, anyway, that's the overview. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna see you with the next episode right after this one, and then with the next Intermezzo in 1886.